Tens of thousands of years before anyone painted a single cave wall, ancient humans were already wearing jewelry. Every documentary about early humans eventually gets to the cave paintings. The horses, the bison, the handprints pressed into stone. Those paintings are roughly 30,000 to 40,000 years old. But this, a tiny shell with a hole drilled through it, is 130,000 years old. That is a gap of nearly 100,000 years. Ancient humans were decorating their bodies long before they ever decorated a wall. So the real question is not when humans started expressing themselves, it is why they started with things they could wear. Archaeologists working at sites in southern Africa and Western Europe kept finding the same small objects in the oldest occupation layers. Perforated shells, animal teeth with holes worn through them. Carved beads made from bone, small enough to hold in 2 fingers. These were not found near cave paintings. They were found in layers of earth far below them, in deposits that predate any known painted surface. The holes in the shells and teeth showed specific wear patterns, not random scratches, smooth grooves worn by a cord rubbing in one direction consistently over a long time. That kind of wear only happens when something is suspended and swings repeatedly against a surface. These were worn, hung from a cord against skin or clothing. At Blombos Cave in South Africa, beads like these date to around 75,000 years ago. That site alone pushed the record of symbolic behavior back by decades. Ancient humans were also using ochre, a red iron-rich mineral, to paint their bodies. That part was already known. What nobody expected was what the beads had absorbed. Residue analysis on several beads found traces of ochre on the outer surfaces, not from being buried near ochre, transferred directly from skin. The person wearing these beads had ochre on their skin. The beads rested against that skin long enough to pick up the pigment. The 2 behaviors were happening at the same time, on the same body. This was not 2 separate habits. It was one system. A deliberate, coordinated way of presenting yourself to other people. Think about the effort involved. Grinding pigment, stringing beads, applying both before you step into view of your group. That is not casual. That is intentional. Here is the detail that changes everything. The shells used for these beads were not collected nearby. Some were sourced from coastlines up to 300 kilometers from where they were found. On foot, across open terrain, 300 kilometers is weeks of travel. Someone made that journey or passed these objects along through a chain of groups, specifically to obtain them. That implies contact between groups separated by significant distance. It implies that these objects had enough value to move through networks of people who may never have met each other directly. A shell that traveled 300 kilometers is not a random pebble picked up on a walk. It is something someone wanted badly enough to go and get. And when archaeologists map where these beads concentrate within campsites, they do not spread evenly. They cluster around certain individuals, possibly specific people, specific ages, specific roles. So what were these beads actually communicating? The most straightforward answer is that they were marking who you were, or who you belonged to. In a world without language complex enough to explain your origins in seconds, a string of shells from a specific coastline could tell a stranger which group you came from before you said a word. The concentration of beads around specific individuals also raises the possibility of status, not just membership in a group, but rank within one. Here is what makes this significant. The symbolic investment came first on the body, not on the wall. The human body was the first canvas. A cave painting stays where you made it. A bead goes with you. Wherever you walked, whoever you met, the message traveled too. When cave paintings finally did appear, they were not the beginning of symbolic thinking. They were a late addition to a practice that had already been running for tens of thousands of years. The need to be seen, to signal who you are, to mark your place in a group. That did not start with art on a wall. It started with a shell on a cord, pressed against a body, 130,000 years ago. If this made you think differently about where human identity actually started, subscribe. There is a lot more where that came from. If this made you think differently about where human identity actually started, subscribe. There is a lot more where that came from.